Hello everyone, I'm Emily Powers, and today I'm going to be showing you how to paint this landscape with a cabin. It's kind of fallish, it's got some mountains and trees, and it's really pretty. So I'm going to show you step by step how to do it in acrylics, and all the supplies I'm using are in the description. There's also links where you can buy some of the supplies, and a percentage of your purchase helps support my channel. So I'm going to start by getting a watercolor pencil, and you can really use any kind of pencil as long as it's water soluble. That way it will wipe off with the paint, and if you make any mistakes or anything you don't like, you can just take like a damp rag or paper towel and wipe it off. So it makes it really easy to kind of change things. So I'm going to start by marking out where I want this like yellowy orange grass, and it's over here. It's about, I'm going to mark it about the third. So if I split it into thirds, I'm going to put it right there. And it may not be completely straight when I paint it, but I'm just going to kind of do it, pretty, just kind of across there. And then the cabin is going to be like a little off center, and I'm not really going to draw the cabin right now because that way we can kind of paint over it, and I'll draw it later, put it in later. So if this is the center down here, it's going to be kind of in this area. So it's going to be sort of around there. And then there's a little, sorry, that's my cat meowing if you heard that. So it kind of drops, the land kind of goes down a little bit from where it was up here and goes across, and there's going to be some trees, and then it kind of goes down again because you're seeing trees here and not really a whole lot of the yellow. So it just kind of steps down a little bit. And then there's some mountains back here. Let's see if I can figure out where. So if you mark halfway and then halfway again, I'm just going to put a mark there so I know where that is. And it's just going to be a little bit above that is where like this other mountain, this big hill comes. So like above the fourth. And then it kind of goes down and it slopes to about the third. I'm going to put it about the third. And there's going to be trees right here, so you're not really going to see the very edge. And then there's some mountains. I don't think I'm going to draw the mountains for one thing because I am using a green pencil. I could switch, but if I use a green pencil and there's not any green up here, I'll get some like green clouds and stuff. So I'll just paint it, and since the sky is white and the mountains are white and blue, then I'll probably just do the sky first and then kind of put the mountains in later. So I'm going to take I think this is a 12 Bright, and it's Princeton Summit is the series, the type of brush. And you don't have to have the same one. It's like an inch, 1 inch bright. So I just got one of my big brushes, and I'm going to dip it in my water, and I'm going to get, I think I'm just going to get mainly white, and there is some like gray in the sky because it's like clouds and stuff. So I'm going to get a little bit of Ultramarine Blue, and you don't have to have the exact colors I'm using. The mixes might come out a little different depending on the color you have, but it should be fine if you want to do a little bit different colors. Alright, so I just kind of made it like a slight gray so that it won't be completely white, and then we can put in more detail later. So I'm just going to put it in there, You don't have to worry too much about if it mixes with that green a little bit, it's okay. I mean, we don't really want green in the sky, but since we're going to do more layers, it'll probably get covered up. Alright, so just real simple, just put that in there real quick. And I'm going to rinse my brush off in my water jar because we don't want all that white in the brush because the next color we're doing is going to be dark, so we don't want it turning light. So this mountain area, actually there was one more section I should have drawn in. So there's kind of some trees, that's what I'm thinking. Trees that are in between the floor down here and the hill way up here. So they're kind of like in between the two, so kind of like in here, but you know, they kind of come down and up, and then there's some big trees like in here, but I'm not gonna worry about that too much. So just kind of in between there, just kind of in that general area. All right, so for this big mountain back here, I'm gonna take some Phthalo Green and some Ultramarine Blue. So it's going to turn like a little bit more of a bluish green. And I'll get a little bit of burnt umber, make it a little darker, and kind of make it a little bit more neutral. Alright, so we got a dark color, and I'm going to put that up in here. I'm not going to worry too much about my edge there. If there's going to be mountains covering it, and I'm going to go back and put detail in it anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. You can just kind of fuzz it out. Oops. Alright, and then down when it gets lower, it kind of turns like brown. I'm sorry if you can hear like a clicking every once in a while. I'm trying to get used to this. I just got a headset microphone so that hopefully you can hear me better, because I tend to get you tend not to be able to hear me very well once I like really get into what I'm doing. I kind of forget to speak up. So I got microphone, but I'm trying to figure out what to do with the cord. I'm like, my brush is hitting the cord every time I go by, so I hope that's not making it really loud. I gotta get used to it and figure out how to use it. Oh, man, there I did it again. This has got a long handle, so it's a long handle brush. Hopefully you can't hear any clicking. You probably can though, because it's probably wobbling the microphone. Alright, so I just kind of put some brown down there. You probably could have done it in the second layer if you wanted to, but just kind of give a little hint of brown. So that was burnt umber, yellow ochre, and some titanium white, if I didn't say it. So I'm going to rinse that out now, since I had, again, like a lighter color that I didn't want in my other colors. And I'm going to work on this, oh, sorry. Alright. I'm going to get some of that ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, and burnt umber. I'm trying to make it dark, and I got like way too much yellow. That's not really the color I want. And get some phthalo green. little bit of Cadmium Red Medium. And the main reason I've got the red out is for the cabin and some of the grass. So I can get some like orangey colors. But you can add it to the green sometimes, and that'll kind of neutralize the green. Since they're opposite on the color wheel, they'll kind of turn into like a muddy brownish color. So you can kind of neutralize the green by adding red. And I'm just going to kind of tap this in. I probably don't need to really do a whole lot of texture at this point, but kind of make the impression of trees, and I'll probably cover it up when I do the mountain again, but might as well kind of give an idea. I mean, this is probably pretty much what we're going to be doing to these trees. So just kind of tapping in different areas, and it's making tree shapes. And there's going to be some more different trees down here, but I'm just going to do it all with this dark. I think I'm just going to go back here too and do this dark. So with acrylic painting, if you a lot of times anyway, you're going to want to do dark colors first, because if you did like the light colors, like the oranges and the brighter, there isn't really a whole lot of bright green in this, but like the greenish yellow colors, if you did those first, then you wouldn't really have any of those like dark areas in the trees. So you want to put in the dark first, and then you'll have the depth of having, you know, the darker underneath and then lighter gradually coming up. So if you do like the main color that you're seeing, it might end up looking flat if you don't have those dark back there, the dark colors. And if you did the light first and then try to go back to the dark with something like these trees, it might be harder to do, trying to put the dark like in between all the light spots. So, all right, I'm rinsing my brush out again. So I don't want a whole lot of green in here. There might be just like my brush isn't fully clean because I didn't actually clean it out with soap, but you don't want a whole lot of green in here because we're going to be doing this floor, which doesn't have a lot of green. I keep calling it a floor, it's the ground. That's the only word that's like really popping up in my brain. So I'm saying floor. Alright, so that's actually making a really close orange. So the yellow ochre and some of the cadmium red medium. I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to do it up and down since that's the way grass is going to be going. And it looks really bright, and it is bright, but this is the first coat, so actually it's kind of bright in the picture compared to everything else. Sorry, I keep hitting it. It's probably coming out like really, really loud in the video. Alright, and it feels kind of like the paint's getting thick, so that means that I just need to get some more water, and that'll kind of help it to flow. I'm not really going to worry too much about this green. It's pretty much dry up there. There's a little bit over there you saw kind of come up, but it's going to kind of flick it up. And alright, so there's our first layer. It doesn't look very nice right now. It looks kind of ugly, but we'll keep doing it and eventually it'll look good. So I'm going to rinse this brush out. I don't think I'm going to use it anymore at the moment anyway. It's kind of big for what I'm wanting to do. So you'd want to make sure at this point that your sky is dry, because that's the next part that I'm going to be doing. And hopefully, since I'm not using this big long handle brush anymore, I won't hit my microphone. So next I'm going to grab a 3/8 inch angle shader, I think. So this is a Princeton Velvetouch 3/8 inch angle shader, and I'm going to dip it in the water, get it wet. And so you're going to want to dip most of your brushes in the water and kind of dab them off to get most of the water off, unless it's like a brush. Certain brushes you don't want to get wet first, like a Deerfoot brush, or like a lunar blender sometimes. Well, maybe not a lunar blender. It just kind of depends. Certain brushes you won't want to get wet. So, but most of the time I'm going to dip them in the water. So the sky, it's got some kind of darker areas in it, and it's got some lighter. So I've already got this like light gray, and I'm going to get pretty much just the same color, just a darker version. So I'm getting titanium white, ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. So this is going to be my darker color, and I think I'm going to work from like one corner to the other corner. So I'm rinsing my brush out from that first, because I'm going to start with more like white. Oh, sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to get my white, and so you can see that I started with gray now that I got this white back here. I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. And any like streaks or anything might just make it look like clouds, so you don't have to completely blend everything. It can be kind of a little streaky. I'm going to get a little bit of white with this dark gray and make like a lighter gray, so I can blend. Alright. And the gray I had first was a little bit more of a blue gray because it added more of the blue. This is a little bit more of a brown color, but that's fine. I'll keep it like that. Alright, and then I'm going to go back and get some more white, make it lighter. And at this point it kind of turns like a gray, but this part I want to add a little bit more blue too. It's like a little bit more of a blue gray. So I'm getting the lighter version of that. I still want to keep that brownish gray color though. It's really dark. I didn't want it that dark. Alright, and then get some dark, put it up in here. So I'm just kind of blending it in and just tapping, flicking around, and so I'm just tapping it, going back and forth. It's really not so much tapping, but more just kind of back and forth motion. A little bit more of a darker here. And I'm going to get white and fill it in. I'm going to get this gray and kind of put in some dark patches. Alright, so there's our sky there. And we could probably go back, now it's filled in, and just kind of add some more like brighter white in certain spots and define certain spots that are changing from white to gray. Oops, got some red in it. And that's okay though. Alrighty. I think that's pretty good. So there's some darker and lighter. Might go back and change a few things, but it's okay for the moment. And I'm still going to put in those mountains. Hopefully I don't forget. That would probably be something I would just like overlook in doing the details of everything. And stop the video and be like, oh no, I forgot the mountains. That's like, I've done that before. Stopped the video and realized that I forgot several things that I was wanting to put in, but alright. So I'm gonna do some more, let me think. I'll get some of this like green that I mixed earlier. So I think it had some Phthalo Green and Ultramarine Blue, that yellow ochre was in there, I can tell for sure, and some of that burnt umber. And I'm going to go up against the edge, and I don't need to do a whole lot of areas that look like trees yet because we still haven't put those mountains in, and I don't want to put them in now because there might be certain parts of this that are drying, but I'm just going to let it sit just in case. Even if it's good, I'll let it sit. And this is, I think, some of the color that we used down here. I was going to say it up here, but it doesn't look the same, but it was down here. Alright. Okay. I'm just kind of pressing down and just pulling towards me at an angle. The glare from the lights is kind of making it to where it looks a lot lighter from where I'm sitting. Okay. And actually, before I keep going, I'm going to get some white and burnt umber and some of this yellow ochre, some of that green. And a little bit of that Cadmium Red Medium. That's more the color we want. So I'm going to put that in. And it's okay if it doesn't cover all the green, because I don't have a whole lot of water, evidently, because it's not wanting to go in the cracks. I'll get a little bit more water, but I'm still okay if it doesn't really cover completely all the green. It'll kind of add some texture to it. And over here you're probably not even seeing anything of that because there's going to be a tree covering it. So I'm just kind of flick that in. So I flick that in and put a little there, a little right here. Actually, there's a little bit up here. I guess it's maybe it's dirt on the mountain or kind of brown grass or something. Alright, and actually there's going to be peeking through behind these trees. There's going to be a little bit this back here. Alright. Alright, and I'm going to go back and do my green. Kind of tap in some texture with that. Get some water. You can, if it's the brown's pretty dry, you can kind of tap some green on top of it too. Just putting some green patches in here. Alright. I'm gonna get some more of the phthalo green, and actually I need some more yellow. Even if I don't use it right away, I'm gonna need it later, so. But I think I'm gonna try and see what it makes with it. It's like a brighter green. Alright, so it's a little brighter. And I'll get some burnt umber with it, just so it's more neutral. And just tap some of that in here. So it's a little bit of a different green. It's still kind of dark, but it's a little different. Alright, I'm going to leave that alone for the moment. I'll just work on something else. I could probably do more at this point, but I'm just going to move on and can also have some time to think about what I want to do there. Alright, so if you ever, sometimes you might want to move on to a different spot, even if you're not done, just, you know, you could think about what you might want to do, what colors you might want to use, and how you want to do it. Or sometimes you just might want to move on because you want to do a different section. I mean, you can, you know, do it however you want to. Alright, I got some Phthalo Green and Cadmium Red Medium. So you see it darken that up real good. So this is the Phthalo Green with the red, so you see how much darker it got. Alright, so this is more the color I'm going to want down here. I'm going to put some of that down in there. And I'm going to do some actual tree shapes with the tip of the brush. So just tapping, you can get some tree shapes down in there. Okay, and I'm gonna have to go about halfway. Alright, do a few really tall ones, taller than the rest. Alright. Rinse that. And I think we're going to go back and work on the mountains now. So I'm going to use this same brush here, and I'm going to get the Ultramarine Blue, and it's going to be pretty dark down at the bottom. The mountain, I got a little bit of burnt umber. Change it just a little bit. Make it a little bit more neutral than that other. You might could do it plain, but a little bit of white. Alright. And I'm going to get some of this brown mixture first. So it's like medium gray. And I'm just going to kind of paint in where I want the clouds to go. So, or the mountains, I mean. So I want one big one right in here. I'm going to get more white because it gets pretty light up here. The dark's still coming off the brush though. here. I'm gonna have another one that comes up, and then it actually, like a little past halfway, goes down, and then bring it back up again. Not that high, and goes down, and goes back up. Alright, so I just kind of did a basic where I want it to go. Now I'm getting some darker color, put down here. So I'm getting that medium gray and painting it in. Not painting the whole thing, just kind of the middle and top area. And if some of the white shows through, it's okay because we're going to go back and do some white anyway. And then I'm going to get this blue. And I'm going to do the bottom. Yeah, I'm going to do more Ultramarine Blue without those other colors and see what happens. Yeah, so I'm just going to get the Ultramarine Blue by itself pretty much. I mean, I still got other colors on my brush, but it doesn't need that burnt umber right now anyway. Alright, so we're getting like a base down. You want this blue. Alright. And take a little bit of blue. You can kind of tap in. It's like kind of some stripes that kind of go across certain points. Alright. So it looks like we're getting a base down, but it still doesn't look very good at the moment, so we're going to keep working on it. Alright. I'm going to get some white by itself and put some of that in. There's actually a lot of white in these mountains. And can like drag the brush on here, and mine is kind of dry already. It may be wet in certain spots. It looks like it might be wet right there. I don't know. It's working out okay. So if yours is still wet, you would probably want to wait until it's dry to do this, or else it could lift off that paint. Just kind of tapping, dragging the brush across this spot here. Just go across. Alright. So you just can basically keep messing with it until you get to where you like it. And if you're just starting, really you may never really like the finished painting, you know, if you just keep trying and it's just not looking the way you want. It might just be that you need to, you know, you need to just maybe put this one away for a little while, or just finish it, just get it done, and then eventually, if you just keep practicing, eventually you would be able to get it to look the way you want. So you don't have to feel bad if you can't get it exactly the way you want, because it just might take a while for you to be able to get it to look that way, and you just keep practicing. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it like that at the moment anyway. We'll see what happens when I get some of these other stuff put in. Actually, it looks pretty good. We'll see what happens when I put everything else in. It's kind of, I don't know if I want to keep it that way at the moment since all this other stuff's not finished. Alright, I'm going to get that Phthalo Green and that Cadmium Red, make this dark green down here. It's not as dark. I didn't add as much red this time. And there's like a area right here. It's kind of dark. Okay, and I'm gonna get some of this yellow and put some of that in. I'm just barely touching. I'm touching very lightly to get some yellow in there. I'm going to go over some of these trees and put this down, way down here. So every time, basically, that we put down color, we just keep layering, and sometimes it might seem like that first layer I didn't really do a whole lot, you know, because I've already covered it up so much. But really, if I didn't put that, there'd be tons of white showing from the canvas. So every layer, unless you like completely go over a layer, every layer is gonna do something to it. I mean, even down here, I pretty much just put a dark green over dark green and did some trees, but it covered the canvas a lot better than it had before down there. So, I'm going to get some burnt umber and that yellow ochre and some white. Do a little bit of the Cadmium Red Medium. And can kind of go back and put in some areas in here. Need a little bit more of that showing. And down, like up in here, the higher it gets in the mountain, it seems like it gets darker. So I'm going to get those colors just without white. I mean, the white's still going to be my brush from the other color, but and I'll even grab a little bit of it, but I'll make sure it doesn't have as much white. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get out a 1/4 inch Deerfoot and put in some green. So I didn't wet it. This is like one of the times where I don't want to wet the brush. And get some of that green. Might actually need a bit more. Alright, so that green and the red. Let's tap. Make some little marks in the brown. I'm going to get some yellow ochre, make a brighter color, a little bit of brown. Alright, and I'll tap and see, I want to get an actual brighter, not just stand out from that other. Alright, I guess that's pretty good. So I'm tapping some of that other color in there. Alright. I need to kind of hurry up because this is going to be a longer video anyway. Alright, so I'm going to put in the main colors of these big trees over here. So, yellow, ochre, some burnt umber, some cadmium red medium. It's kind of like a dark orange, and a little bit of phthalo green. Get a little bit of a greenish color, or a greenish tint to it. And it's going to come up right here. So, like a little over halfway, just a little bit, and then almost to the top of the mountain. It's actually kind of bright. I get some brown and red and make that, get a little bit of green. Make that the base instead. So there's more like what we would put on top. Some of that other color is kind of coming off too, but it's alright. See, I almost grabbed the yellow with it. I don't want the yellow yet. Right, there's another tree that kind of goes over, and then another big one. Man, I'm just like really running out of that color. Alright, I got it pretty thick now, covering over that. More green. Alright, I'm running out of that green way too fast, so I'm going to mix a bunch of it. Because I'm just mixing and mixing and mixing, and I'm not really painting very fast. So I'm going to get a bunch of this red. It'll get on my palette knife. Brown. And green. Looks like I got a lot of red, so I might need to add a few more of the other colors. We'll see. No, it's pretty good. So if you have a palette knife, you can use it. If not, you can mix it with your brush, but it does come in, palette knives do come in handy if you want to mix like a bunch of color you know you're gonna need. Another tree right there. And I'll just go ahead and put it over there. All right. And some of the trees are pine trees, looks like, so they would be a little bit of a different shape and a different color than those other like, orangey yellow ones. All right, and I'm gonna get some of this color and go and do some of it in here. So I'm marking out where I want these other colored trees to go. Putting this brown down there. Alright. I think those mountains might be pretty good. If they obviously don't look, you know, real like the picture, but I think for this painting they look alright. You know, you can do paintings that the mountains, they could look really real, and you could also make them look, you know, like they're very painted. You can tell immediately that they're painted. You could use like a palette knife, you know, you can do a bunch of different things with this type of painting. You can do it different ways. So if I really like kept on layering and stuff, I could get it to look more real, or if I used a palette knife I could make it look a little different. So I'm gonna rinse that out and do this edge with my 3/8 inch angle. I'm gonna get some green in that brown that we made. And there are some tree shapes in here. So I'm going to tap. And they're not really across the whole thing, but you can kind of put a few in different spots. Put some green down this mountain. Alright, that's pretty good. Make sure you don't see like any spots from when you were doing that tree edge. Fuzz those out. And before I get too far ahead with all this other stuff, I'm going to do some more on this grass. So I'm going to get let's see, this is a number 2 bristle fan. It's a Princeton Select, but you can use whatever you have. Get the yellow ochre and a little bit of white, water for what I'm going to be doing. I want water, or else it won't really give the effect I want. A little bit of red. Get a little bit more orange. Alright, so it's pretty watery now. You don't want it super, super watery, but you do want it a little watery. And I'm going to flick it up. And make some different color grass in this area. Need a little bit more water. So I probably won't want it to look that long back there, but at least we're going to get some other color in that back part. All right, let me see. I'm just gonna take this and like fill in. See, I'm getting like these flakes of green. Oh, but it's from that blue there. Don't want that. Pull it from over here. Maybe it won't do that. I'm gonna pretty much fill this in. Color. Back here. Stick in those weird green flakes. I can't even barely see what I did over here. Barely at all. It's like it just faded away. Get some white with it, and we can always go back if it's too light and kind of change the color. So it's not really a whole lot for me to say. I'm just basically doing the same thing. I am trying to, I want the grass in the front to look a little longer than the back. I want the back to like really show any noticeable like long pieces of grass. So that's why I was kind of filling it in here, so you would not see that. Get some more red and some more yellow. That'll change the color. Make it more like the color we had already. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of different colors in the grass, except for like a few really dark spots. I'm going to get some of this dark color and water it down and just do a few sections of grass. Give it some dark. Just a little bit. Alright, I might need to wait for that to dry. Possibly. Let me see if I need more white. Alright, so if I lighten this up, I could get some spots I can actually see what's happening. This grass is just not wanting to cooperate with me. Sometimes it seems like certain parts of the painting don't want to work. But, I mean, basically all it is just, you know, you don't have enough water on your brush, or you're not sure what color to use. It's not really like the painting's fighting you, but it kind of feels like it sometimes. Alright, so I can actually see some of the grass here now. And you want to be careful how much that dark you put, because I can see that it's going to be hard if I want to cover any of that up to cover it. Alright, so just keep going. May feel like you aren't ever going to get it to that point, because I mean, how long has it been? And it still doesn't look like a whole lot, but I mean, yes, this is definitely going to be a somewhat longer video. I mean, I don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but it's going to be longer. Alright, I'm going to stop on that part, and I'll do some trees. So maybe once we start getting these trees looking better, maybe we'll see some improvement. And if you ever just kind of feel stuck, you can always stop and just kind of don't do anything for a little bit and just see what you think you might want to change. And sometimes not messing with it and messing with it, sometimes just leaving it alone and looking at it can help you see mistakes. Because I mean, sometimes I'll do a painting and I'll finish it, and then once it's been sitting finished for a while, I'll look back at it later. You know, I just look at it once I'm finished, and then I'm like, you know, that part looks a little bit off, or you know, so you don't necessarily have to finish it all at once. And I'm covering those parts that I covered earlier. Alright, it's pretty good now. And I'm going to get my Deerfoot now and grab some cadmium yellow, or not cadmium yellow, yellow ochre and cadmium red medium. Make like an orange and get a little bit of brown with it, because this is going to be a little bright for some of these. Alright, now I'm just going to tap in gently where I want some of these. Alright, I'll get a little bit more yellow ochre. Do some more yellow in certain spots. And I'm going to layer to where some of these, because it's pretty much just layers of trees. So I'm gonna, as I do the next color, I might add to certain trees, but also kind of try to put in new trees at the same time. Alright, kind of tap that out of my brush, get some of this dark color, and tap that back in. Some of that orange again, the yellow and red. Actually, there's a tree that's kind of covering over some of this. It's kind of more where the cabin is. Get a little bit of green. Put that in. Alright, get some of that darker color, a little bit green with that brown. Alright, so you kind of see we have the darker green trees all have more of a point because they look like more like pine trees, and more of the orange trees are kind of, I don't really know exactly what kind of tree you would call it, but they're a little bit more full. They don't have a pointy top like the other ones are. I got some of that in there. Now I'll add a little bit more to my trees here. With my 1/4 inch Deerfoot, I'm going to actually get some of this color here that we just were using. It might not be a whole lot there, but it might be a little dry. I'm gonna get some of that and a little bit of the green, a little bit of the red. Alright. And just gonna put a little bit of that in here. I'm not going all the way in. I'm gonna leave some dark. I'm going to do this next one. You don't want to cover it all fully, because if you do, it'll just be like a blob of this color. You want that dark to show in certain spots. And some of this tree will be covering the cabin, but since we haven't put it in yet, I'll just put in a little bit. Man, it seems like the glare is really bad today. I'm having a really hard time seeing what color I'm using. I don't want to put it all in and be like, wait, that does not look the way I thought it, it was. It looks way lighter from where I'm sitting. All right. And I'll get some of this dark color and some green. Get a little bit more green this time, a little bit of that yellow. So get a little bit of like a lighter green. Put some of that back here before we go over it. I don't have to do that, but I'm going to get that color back to this tree here. Man, it's much darker than it looks from my angle. Alright, I'm going to get that yellow and red. I'm not going to add more green to it this time. And it's not really very dark in there. There's not very many dark patches, so I'm going to get that brown and put some really dark in before I go anymore. I want there to be some dark areas. Alright, and there's some yellow back here from some trees. Alright, I'm gonna do it much brighter now. A little bit of white. And then the red and the yellow. So certain areas I want to put some really bright. I don't want to do too much. And it's got a little bit of green in it, so I'll get a little bit of that. Alright. And I'll do the first section on my pine trees. So I'm getting my bristle fan. And it's going to be all in here, so I'll just first kind of fill in some of this dark in this section. Alright, so it's going to come pretty high, so about to here. I'm going to put it up, go vertical that way, and then go back and forth with this. And just going to kind of tap at the top. But it's going to kind of, it's not straight, it's going to kind of do like this. Ignore the brush, my hands. So it's going to kind of point that way on each side. So I'm going to kind of point some that direction and then do some in the other direction. Kind of did it more straight down here, but it's going to really change that. Alright, and I'm running out of a bunch of colors, so alright, I might need more yellow. Alright. Let's get that brown. And some green. I'm not going to really try to make that same color. Let's make a dark green with the brown and green. Get some water because it's not really wanting to come off of the brush. And then there's going to be another one kind of on the edge. It's a little bit more full. It's got kind of more leaves. Alright, and then over about here. Have another one. So this part is coming together a lot faster, it seems like, than the mountains and stuff did. All right. And there's another tree in here, but I'm going to wait on doing that one. Alright. I'm going to get these colors for the grass. And then we got all this lighter color down here. We could go back and put a little bit of darker, go back over it and change it. And if at any point I do something on my painting and you like the way it looks on yours, then you don't have to change it. You can keep it. I'm just fiddling around with mine the way I want to go. So I got some more yellow. Get a little bit of the red. Alright, so I got a darker color, more orange. A little bit of white. And I can kind of make it have certain spots that are this lighter color and go back with the darker. Kind of change it. Alright, now I'm going to let that dry. Get some of this darker, just kind of make some more of these like tree shapes back in here. Okay. I think I should probably go ahead and put in the, well, I was going to say I should put in the cabin, but I want to get this background looking right first. So I'm going to get some white. put that in. And cover that area that had green coming over it and back there. Now I'm getting green in it. Alright. Rinse that out. Okay. Well, let's see if we can kind of see where we want our cabin to go. So I want it, see, it's kind of wet down here, so you might want to dry it if you're thinking you're going to get the pencil and the paint. But I'm going to start it right about there, so a little lower than the middle of the canvas, and you know, you can move it wherever you want, but I'm going to put it right there. So it's actually kind of at the middle. Can wipe that off. Do it down here. Do it pretty much straight. And I want the edge be a little past the middle this way. Put it right there. And I'll put the other edge over here. And then I'll do the roof. And now these two lines will be at the same angle. Do another straight, and then the roof kind of comes off that way pretty far over. I'll draw it right there. So I'm gonna get a 1/4 inch angular shader, Princeton Select. So it's pretty much just like a smaller version of the 3/8 inch angle I had earlier. I'm gonna get it wet, dab most of the water off, and then I'm gonna get some burnt umber and this Cadmium Red Medium. Make like a red. And I'm going to put that in here. Come a little bit lower than the grass. And actually get some water, my rag, and kind of wipe that off. I don't want it to be so tall like that. I want it kind of shorter. So I'm going to do it down, lower than that. And then I'll get like, a little bit of yellow with it and make it lighter. And do this edge. Make it a little lighter so that you can see where the edge is. I'm going to point this down some. Alright. Rinse that out. And I'm going to get some yellow. And do the roof. So just, we can use this edge to go, you can use the edge of the angle brush to do the edges of the roof, and then fill in the rest. We get a little bit of water to help it flow better. And it'll seep in those cracks better too. And you really don't see the other side because it's kind of covered with a tree. So I'm not really going to worry about that. So we know where our cabin's going to be now, so we can kind of paint things that are supposed to be close to it. I'm starting to see like a tree that's right next to it. So I'm getting these three colors here, the red, yellow, and green. I'm going to put a tree right here. Alright. And I'm going to get some of this yellow with my 3/8" angle and try to paint in this grass. Get it covered. I've got some green in there from last time I used it, so I'm rinse that out. Alright, I'm going to get the yellow and flick it in here and cover up some of those light areas to turn them more yellow. Make it a little brighter. Should I get some white with it over here to cover? This grass, I think, is giving me the hardest time with this painting. Sometimes certain things in the painting just don't seem to work very well. Alright, so I'm gonna flick in, just paint in a few areas that you want brighter, and I'm gonna get some yellow. Let's see, maybe put it over here. I don't know if you can see it over there. Some yellow and some of the red. A little bit of brown. And wipe a lot of it off my brush, and then just take certain spots and just kind of do like an area that's darker. Alright, and then some yellow. Covering up some of it. A little bit of it over here. Make like a slightly darker middle color. It's like in between the two, really dark and the really light. Alright. So, once we get to the trees and finishing up the cabin and stuff, it'll probably, other areas will hopefully come together quickly, hopefully, I don't know. It might be slowly too, I don't know. Alright. And I'll get that like red and brown with some of the yellow again for this area. And then we'll get the red and the brown for the other side. And really, the edge of the house should be over from the corner of the roof. So if that's the corner right there, I should zoom in some. Right there. So if this is the corner, it needs to come over to the right. So moving it over. Alright, got a second coat on that. And there are some windows and doors, so I'll put that in later, and it looks like there's some kind of white vehicle type thing over here, but I don't think I'm going to put that in. You could if you want to. At the beginning of the video I have the picture like full screen, so you could screenshot it and have the picture. Keep trying to cover this up. It needs to be covered so I can do something else. I don't want to cover it up anymore. So with acrylic you can, change things. I mean, you can see I'm covering up this area. So you can change stuff and make it different. Getting some of the red now. Making it more orange. Alright, so we could probably do some more of our trees, put in the fence, do some more details on the cabin. So I cleaned my palette off, and now I'm going to work on maybe these trees again. So I'm going to grab my Deerfoot and, well, actually, yeah, I'll just go ahead and use this. So I'll get my yellow ochre and a little bit of green. I don't want a lot of green, just a little bit. Somewhere like this. And some red. A lot of that yellow. So I'll make this some of that on there. And again, you don't want to cover up too much of the dark and the other colors, but a little bit of it. Alright. And there is some, I'll get a little bit of brown and some more green. Put it over this a little bit. Get that yellow and go back over. Kind of covering it up. Okay, rinse that off, and before I go much further, I'm going to get my rag and dip it in the water and take off the pencil marks. And it's taking off a little bit of the paint because the paint isn't fully dry. I mean, I can touch it and it doesn't come off, but it needs like 24 hours to dry completely. So I'm going to get my 1/4 inch angle and do the trunks on some of these that you're seeing. I'm going to get the white, just like a little bit of blue, and a little bit of brown. And a little bit of yellow. And I will make sure you kind of press it down and you can get a nice sharp point. And then with this tree, I'm seeing it come down here. So yeah, the trunk might look a little funny being white, but I'm going to keep working on it. I'll get a little, those other two colors, make it a little darker down here. And it seems like there might be another one next to it. And then there's another one. It's kind of over the cabin some, but I don't want to do that one yet. There's some trees back in here. Some of them you're only seeing bits and pieces of. Okay, and then since I have this brush, that's going to look weird for a little bit. I have this brush, I'm going to go ahead and put in the darker, I'm going to do more of the cabin. So let me zoom in. You can see this. So I'm getting burnt umber and ultramarine blue, and that's going to make a dark color. And I'm going to put that along the edges where I want it dark. And it's kind of watered down. Not really that I meant to do that, but it works having it kind of watery. Alright, and I'll get some red with it. Going across, and I can even take some of that dark and kind of do some stripes across too. Okay. Might could even get a little bit of that yellow. And more red, kind of make it not have so much of that brown in it. Put some in there. Alright, and then I want that brown blue color to be really dark. And I'll put it right up against the edge here. It's like a shadow. And then I'm going to get some of that brighter red. And maybe a little bit more yellow. Okay, more red kind of by itself. Kind of put some in there. A little bit of the dark, maybe. Get some yellow by itself. And there's some like gourds that are yellow in here. Alright. And then I'm going to get that like color we used for the trees. And right here I'll put like a line. Add a little bit of yellow to it. And I want to fix this corner. Wasn't really very sharp. Get a sharp edge. Alright. Alright, good. Now I will put one more layer of yellow on the roof. So I'm going to get yellow. Maybe just a little bit of white. And maybe get like a little bit of red, just a little bit towards the other end. Okay. Good. And I will do like the fence. So I'm going to get this dark color we were using on the rest of the we're using on the cabin. I'm going to put some do a few posts. And I'll do some this way. Trying to make them as small as you can. You don't have to do all of them. Okay. And then it looks kind of like there's some tree trunks or something over here. Wipe that off my brush and get some of that yellow and that dark, and there's a tree trunk right here. It's a pretty big tree. And then got this on my brush. I'm gonna go ahead and do this tree that's in front of the cabin. Oops, got a little wobbly there. A little bit of water. All right. So next, what I want to do, zoom back out. Make sure you can see it good. All right, I'll get this Deerfoot, yellow, a little bit of green, red, and go back over a lot of this trunk. And I won't just put it over the trunk or else it would look kind of funny, so I'm going to put it all over. And actually, I get some brown and green. I can make some dark to go over first, and then have the other colors go over. So I'll put that and then get the lighter. Making like an orange, two colors there. All right, might go back over that again later. And then we have a pine tree that I said was over here. So I'm gonna get the burnt umber and some of the yellow and a little bit of red. And make this trunk. So a little bit off from this other tree. right in here. More brown by itself. Actually, get some brown, some blue, get dark. Some red. Alright. And I'll get some of this dark color and kind of look a little bush thing over here. And this tree has got a trunk, it looks like. There's a trunk here and over here. Right, and there's looks like there's another little tree right there. And I'm gonna pull down this white one down there. Alright, and I'm going to get some of the darker and put some dark spots in these trees. Some like lines. Mix some more. So do some lines in there. And actually, really, you can see some of it way up in the tree. Alright, so I'm going to do some spots in the grass that are like shadowed. So I'm going to get some red and some brown, watered down. It looks like it's mainly red you got. So water it down, and I'm going to do, see, it needs to be a little darker. A little bit more brown. I'm going to go along here and do like a shadow where the line of trees is here. Shadow on the grass. And any areas that are kind of darkened or alright, and there's still some green poking through those trees. I don't want the green back there. So now do some more of these pine trees. And we need to do the details on the cabin. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure I wasn't still zoomed in. That wouldn't be good. All right. So I'm going to get the Phthalo Green and Burnt Umber. And put in this. Actually, I could put in some of the yellow too. This tree comes up about as high as the other one does. Just a little lower. And I'm going to do more like a pine tree. But it doesn't really have full pine tree. It kind of doesn't have very many leaves down here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get more yellow with it. Make it a little lighter. Don't need a lot lighter, just a little bit. You can tell the color is different. And I'm going to do some shapes down in here. You can tell where, like, you can tell the texture of the leaves. It's darker. Just barely can see some texture. Trying to see what it looks like. Alright, it needs to be a little lighter for the other highlights. So I'm getting white and just barely tapping. Really careful. I don't want to put too many of these. I don't want to get any weird shapes. Just tapping some of these in. And getting some yellow. Oops, too much there. Okay. And I'm going to get this watery red mixture and put some of it under the tree. A little too much there. A little bit down there. Alright, so Now for the other details. So for the cabin, I'm going to get my little angle, and you could use something smaller if you want, like a little round or something. I'm going to get the red and yellow and put a door right here. And then I'm going to put some windows, like, it looks like there's maybe some windows but the panel's closed, something like that. And get some red. Some brown. Alright, and then I'll get the brown and blue mixture, and we want some windows in here. So I'm going to do 2 little squares or rectangles and rinse my brush off and get some white. Actually, it's kind of got some other colors in it, and I got some of that gray. And I'm going to go around it, around each box. Oops. You can use the tip of the brush to get smaller little lines. So it looks kind of sloppy at the moment, but what I'm going to do is go back, rinse my brush off, and keep watering down all my mixtures too much. Get that blue and brown. And go back inside the windows. Put it back in. And take some brown, kind of go along the edge. My brush handle must be kind of wet. Get some brown. Change it a little bit. And then get that white and do some down the middle. And then I'm going to get my red, kind of watery, and do some around that door and do a line between the door, and get my yellow with some white and kind of do separate the door. Alright, rinse that out right now anyway. We're almost done. We're going to get the yellow and some red. I had got some green picked up with that too. Need more yellow. Okay, it's got more yellow, it doesn't have as much red in it. Okay, and then this, there's a, actually, get like, I don't know what this dark color is. It's like a brown with the yellow and red, it looks like. I'm gonna go back and put some in here. And some of this color. And go back over. Alright. So for this tree, I'm gonna get some brown. And put it where I want, and then I'm going to get some red. You probably can't see that. Red and yellow. Make like an orange. So this one's probably going to be one of the more orangey trees. Alright, a little bit more yellow. Alright, red. And then yellow. You don't want a whole lot, the yellow. Alright. That's probably pretty good. Might just take some of that yellow, put maybe some over here. Top of some of these. Alright. And I felt like there was one more thing that I was going to do, but I can't really remember what it was. I don't know, maybe I'll think of it in a minute. I did, kind of before I finished, want to take some green and cover over these. Make sure those tops of those trees are a little bit more covered. And I wanted to take some of this darker green and water it down, getting the cracks over here where I was seeing some white. If you water your paint down really thin, water it down and get into any places you see some white areas, it will seep right down in the cracks and cover that up. All right, I think that's pretty good. So sorry, I've been zoomed in, and that was probably good for that tree, but I think I was doing some of these trees and couldn't see it. Sorry about that. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to take my Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen and sign it. And if you make a mistake with these, you can, as long as it hasn't dried yet, you can take a wet rag and damp rag and wipe it off. But I would only do that if you really don't like how it came out, because I don't know, I just don't like having to wipe it off, because sometimes it might wipe off the paint underneath. But it is a good thing to have something that can wipe off. You could do paint with a little brush, but whichever way you want to do it. So there's our fall cabin landscape. I think it came out really cool. There was one more thing I kind of thought of, is that this like dark spot in the sky kind of makes it look like that mountain's a volcano and it's smoking. Like having, like about to erupt or something. So I just kind of want to put some white around it just so that it doesn't really look like it's erupting. It just looks like a dark spot. Alright, that's better. No, it still kind of looks like that. Sometimes it'll, you know, if you imagine that it looks like a volcano, then it'll just kind of get stuck in your head, and it still kind of looks like that, even if you fix it. At least that's what happens with me sometimes. I think, hey, that looks kind of like a volcano, I better fix it. And then even once I fix it, I still think about it as a volcano, looking like a volcano, because it reminded me of that while I was working on it. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like and subscribe. I do post a new video every Friday, so if you want to check out some of my other videos, you can click on Emily Powers Art right below the video, and it should take you to my channel where you can see some of the other videos that I have. And the next painting we're doing is this swan. Hopefully it'll be an easier painting, more for beginners, hopefully. So, and the printer kind of discolored the picture. It doesn't have that much yellow in it as it does in this picture, but kind of printed them all a little bit funny. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Bye.